The 702 program is incredibly important for protecting our national security and advancing our interests abroad.
Every few years, Congress needs to renew a controversial law known as FISA Section 702, which allows the NSA to collect huge swaths of America's private internet data without a warrant. And every few years, depending on who is in the White House or who is not, Democrats and Republicans fight over who can be more hypocritical about the law. When a Democrat is in office, Democratic leaders downplay the massive privacy violations that the NSA and FBI have engaged in over and over and voted into law. Many Republicans talk about how illegal it is and vote against it. When Republicans are in office, the exact opposite happens. And we're seeing that play out now, as Republican Jim Jordan, the powerful Judiciary Chair and the longtime critic of the law, has flip-flopped on the issue.
Worth noting that, like, this is one of those big deep state bills that neither party takes too seriously, because they both know that while they can use it for political points, it absolutely needs to pass because the deep state demands it. So, like, you can play politics around it, but at the end of the day, it needs to come through. It's a football, yeah. It's like the debt ceiling. I wonder if this time there might actually be enough of a procedural blockage for it to
and says he now plans on
expire
voting
for a
yes.
while.
Senator Joe Biden originally voted against Section 702, saying it would be, quote, a breathtaking and unconstitutional expansion of the president's powers. Yet when he was in the White House, he refused to support reforms that would fix the same problems he called out as a senator.
This is exactly what I mean when I say the real threats to America are bipartisan, by the way. Like, yeah, Trump's a retard, da-da-da. But, like, stuff like this is exactly what I mean. This is the rot that, like, no matter how much it gets talked about, it is not allowed to die, you know?
Trump, in 2024, told Congress to, quote, kill FISA during the last renewal because FISA was improperly used against him personally. Now that he's back in office, he's calling for Section 702 to be renewed with no privacy fixes for Americans whatsoever. If both parties just had a consistent position on this law, it would have been reformed years ago. Right now, the debate over 702 in Congress is heating up again.
Just another political football.
Capitol Hill. Why does it need to, what is it? And why does it need to be reauthorized?
What we're talking about is Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. This gives the United States government the authority to collect against foreigners, non-Americans, located outside the United States.
Unless the foreigners are communicating with Americans, in which case the data on Americans gets roped in too.
So nobody in the United States, no Americans. And what
this is just a lie, just a flat-out lie. Flat-out lie.
Allows us to do is to collect that intelligence here in the United States from American telecommunications providers, because as it turns out, a lot of those communications that take place overseas pass through U.S. telecommunications providers. So that's essentially what the authority is. It doesn't involve any Americans, doesn't authorize a collection against Americans, targeting Americans, and nor does it allow the collection of any Americans, whether they're in the U.S. or overseas. Only foreigners outside the U.S.
So only foreigners. And why does it need to be reauthorized?
It is the single most productive collection that the U.S. government has of intelligence. It contributes to about 60% of the president's daily brief, that critical intelligence product the president gets every morning. 60% of that comes from NSA collection under Section 702.
What is your previous roles with Section 702 and FISA?
Well, I was working in the Justice Department's National Security Division when we actually came up with the
This guy is a deep state ghoul. Founder and executive director of the National Security Institute at the Antonin Scalia Law School at George Mason University, where he serves as assistant professor of law, director of the National Security Law and Policy Program, and director of the Cyber Intelligence and National Security LLM program. He also teaches classes on counterterrorism, intelligence, surveillance, cybersecurity, and other national security councils, as well as a summer course held abroad with U.S. Supreme Court Justice Neil M. Gorsuch. Also a venture partner with Paladin Capital Group, where he assists the firms with investments across the full range of its themes and theses, including a focus on dual-use national security technologies. Also serves on the board of directors for RangeForce, a cybersecurity training and readiness platform startup, and Tosni, a digital identity startup. So, in other words, not only does this guy work directly with the Supreme Court, he serves on the board of surveillance companies that profit from the data that the U.S. government is allowed to scrape because of this law. This is as deep state as it gets. Like, this is, like, holy shit. But I guarantee you this guy gets along fine with both parties. Guarantee you. This guy is so in bed, man. It's insane that these people are allowed to exist. Tosni, digital identity startup, on the advisory boards of U.S. Strategic Metals and North America's largest primary producer of cobalt. and Constella Intelligence, a deep and dark web intelligence startup, advisor to Beacon Global Strategies, a strategic advisory firm, and Duco, a tech startup that connects corporations with geopolitical and international business experts. Also the managing director of Trigraph Caveat Capital, a private investment vehicle. Among other things, serves on the board of directors for the Greater Washington Board of Trade, board of advisors for the Global Cyber Alliance, advisory board in the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy Center on Cyber and Tech Innovation, the executive committee of the Reagan Institute Strategy Group. He's also a fellow at the... Prior to the White House, served in the leadership team, Attorney General for National Security, during the Bush administration, White House Advisory Council for the President. Like, his whole job is molesting the money. His whole job is molesting the money. So of course he's in favor of 702. Of course he's in favor of FISA. This is his entire life. He's not a person. He's not a human being the way we are.
The idea of Section 702 helped write the legislation that created it, and then have been involved in the reauthorization of it, first at the House Intelligence Committee, and then since I've been working on the outside at the...
Okay, again, I know I've been saying this a lot, but I just want people to understand. We all understand this is the guy ending the world, right? These are the people. It's not people like Trump. People like Trump come and go. They're especially stupid or crazy. This guy stays in power no matter what. It doesn't matter who you vote in as president. It doesn't matter what Congress leans. It doesn't matter who the Supreme Court justices are. This guy stays. No one's even paying attention to him. There are people like him in every country on earth, and they are the ones who actually decide what gets done. They are more connected than you could possibly imagine.
The Scalia Law School at George Mason University.
How does this tie to the conflict in Iran?
Well, obviously, given its productive capability for the president's daily brief and the amount of intelligence we collect from it for our national security purposes, it's central to our ability to prosecute this war and effectively counter threats to the homeland, identify terrorist threats, identify foreign intelligence threats, and collect on all these individuals who mean the U.S. harm.
And when is Congress expected to take up this debate and sign off on this reauthorization? Because we heard the top Democrat, Jim Himes, he supports it, but not all Democrats do. And some Republicans have reservations as well.
No, that's exactly right. Well, when Congress repassed the law, reauthorized the law in 2024, they only put a 2-year clock on it. That means on April 20th, 2026, if Congress does nothing, if the House and Senate don't act, and the president doesn't sign the legislation, that authority will expire, and we will go dark on our ability to collect on all
this journalist is complicit, it seems. Yeah, 100%. Why bring this guy? Like, oh, we're going to have a guy explain Section 702. Here's John Deep State, who is in bed with 17 companies and advisory boards that benefit from the data harvested from Section 702 from the FISA. Like, no pushback whatsoever, just accepting everything he says. Yeah, this journalist is complicit. 100%. And this is C-SPAN, by the way. We're looking at C-SPAN. This is how deep the rot goes on every level. Corporate or not, public or not, the level of capture is completely absolute. How do you dislodge guys like these? There is no way to, within the legal bounds of the system. That's not a joke. There is absolutely no legal mechanism to drain the swamp in this fashion. These people are not elected. They do not, nobody votes for them. There is no ousting that you can do. You require a comprehensive social purge equivalent to what Mao did with the Cultural Revolution. There's no other way to do it.
Terrorist and foreign intelligence targets overseas. We're talking about 300,000 targets that are critical to American national security. If this goes dark, 60% of the president's daily brief goes away overnight.
This guy's job history goes on forever. Is this his CV? Holy fuck. Oh, right there. Arlington, VA, right off the bat. Paladin Capital Group, George Mason University School of Law, Beacon Global Strategies, Trigraph Caveat Capital, IronNet Cybersecurity, United States Supreme Court Justice, law clerk for Neil M. Gorsuch. Phenomenal. Thank you. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, George Washington University, U.S. House of Representatives Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, National Intelligence University, Law Group, the White House, Department of Justice, Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, DOJ, again, Court of Appeals, House of Representatives, Office of Congressman Bob Goodlatte, additional positions, and then here is publications. Let's take a look at his publications, man. Cyberspace under threat in the era of rising authoritarianism and global competition. How the CCP uses law to silence critics and enforce its rule. I would rather the world controlled by the Chinese Communist Party than controlled by this guy. And if you disagree, I genuinely think you are insane. The CCP is interested in nation building. As evil as they are, as dictatorial as they are interested in the preservation of human existence. This guy is not. This guy would end the world if he could. They're psychopaths. The role of artificial intelligence in counterterrorism, of course, and related national security programs. AI versus human decision-making in a simulated Taiwan crisis. We cannot err in protecting Americans in a new age of terror. We can't return to a pre-9/11 mindset on foreign surveillance. We can't return to a pre-9/11 mindset on foreign surveillance. Israel and Ukraine against terror, generative AI, a lot of AI stuff. Waking up to the threat of the Chinese Communist Party. Remember how I said that the China was like totally fine with us and we were fine with them up until the early 2000s when we decided to make them a foreign effigy of threat so that we could use them to justify all kinds of crazy deep state stuff domestically? Slow ratcheting up of Ukraine aid lays out welcome mat to China and Taiwan. Talking points: U.S. sends 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine. Based. Okay, this is a bunch of Security Institute briefings. At least he's a Ukraine hawk. Oh, of course he is. Whatever, man.
Yesterday at this hearing with Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI Director Kash Patel, and the CIA Director, they were testifying on global threats, as we've been talking about here on the Washington Journal all morning. I want to show Democratic Senator Ron Wyden asking the FBI Director Kash Patel if the agency is buying information that tracks people's location history, and get you to respond on the other side.
Director Patel, a question for you. In 2023, your predecessor testified that, and I quote, "To my knowledge, we do not currently purchase commercial database information that includes location data derived from internet advertising." Is that the case still? And if so, can you commit this morning to not buying Americans' location data?
Thank you. The FBI uses...
There's no one here who disagrees with me on what I said, right? About how Trump isn't the real threat that guy was. This guy is. Not him. Well, I mean, Kash Patel's really bad, but not this guy. This guy? We all understand what I'm talking about, right? I feel like this is going to be an increasingly important point to understand 5 or 10 years from now when Trump and his cronies are all out of office, but all the, like, slow grinding decay of Western civilization shit is still happening.
You and I could buy data that all the big tech companies buy, data that Amazon or Macy's buys about where you shop, where you might be, right? All the data that we leave on the internet, right? A lot of that data is collected by commercial data brokers and is sold at public, and anyone can purchase it. The question is, should the government be allowed to purchase that data and use it for its own purposes? This is a debate. Senator Wyden has been talking about this for years. He's had legislation to take away the government's ability, or at least require a warrant to go buy that. But I guess the big question for the American people is, do we think something that you or I could buy or that a company could buy, the government should have to go get a warrant for it?
Oh, it sure sounds pretty leading to me. It sounds like he thinks the government should be able to buy it.
Fair debate. Has nothing...
Not really, no. I think there's for one, the companies shouldn't be able to do it either, but there's also a massive difference between companies keeping track of my data to like upcharge me on Amazon or whatever, and the government keeping track of my data so that they can restrict my fucking political rights. There's a pretty big difference between those. I don't think either should be able to have it, but the idea that because corporations can do it, the government can too is insane.
With Section 702, an important debate, and actually, interestingly, a debate that Anthropic raised in its fight with the Department of War over whether the Department of War could use its AI capabilities for this purpose. Now, it's not, there's no evidence to suggest the Department of War is doing that or might do it. Anthropic has raised this claim, but it's a totally different debate. And the question is, does Congress want to pass a law? They could pass a law saying you have to get a warrant. Senator Wyden's bill has not gotten enough support to get out of committee, much less to the floor, much less to a vote and a signature by the president. But he's arguing for it, and it's a fair...
It's despair-inducing. This clip from C-SPAN, 108 views 3 weeks ago. No one even pays attention to these guys, man. It's not like if ever, and this is like Marxism 101, you know? If ever it seems like the arc of history moves in a nonsensical fashion, you have to remember where the power actually lies. You know? I thought Bush was ruining America, but now Obama's in and everything's the same. I thought Obama was ruining America, but now Trump's in, everything's the same. Over and over and over and over again, man. It's just 1,000 of these guys. With varying levels of complicity and power, it's probably around 50,000 people who are more or less this guy who run the U.S. government. And if you want to like cut down the lines a little more and be more specific, you could probably say that a comparable level of people at a slightly higher level of average power run the world government, to the extent that the world government exists. Rather, I should say a collection of neoliberal and pro-surveillance and pro-MIC business and corporate and trade positions that are reinforced and defended and advocated for across the world by people who have a shared economic interest in the exploitation of humanity and the transfer of wealth upwards. If you believe in liberalism, this is the guy benefiting from it. Economic liberalism, I should say. And I think the girls fight sometimes. Yeah, for sure. 100%. They do. They don't all get along. It's not like a unified council of people. I guarantee you that this guy personally dislikes other people in the deep state, even though they're almost identical. Life's never that simple. But this is the economic group we're talking about, not the super powerful oligarchs who burn all their money on, you know, business ventures, or they accumulate $1 trillion in speculative value but do nothing with it. Not the politicians they hire. People like this. They're the ones with power. And they're intelligent, and they're driven, and they're much more connected than you could imagine. I can imagine they jostle for position. Absolutely, yeah. Wait, so why are they doing this then if it's not for the oligarchs? Because they benefit. The oligarchs are to them an aberration. They're an irrational extension of a system that works well. They are the guards of the system. They are the arch corporatists. The oligarchs are just particularly self-centered people. He pushed the conspiracy that Israel did not push Trump to attack Iran on CNN. Oh, well, there you go. In case you ever wanted to wonder why these people are the way they are. So he's the one arguing that it's anti-Semitic to believe that Israel pushed America into war here, even though we know it's factually true. Yeah, of course. Anyone part of this deep state is going to be pro-MIC, pro-Ukraine, pro-Israel. Basically no exceptions. Wouldn't they want to become the oligarchs? No, totally different kind of person. Massively different kind of person. That's like saying that a person who works as like an undersecretary for a member of the presidential cabinet would want to be like a celebrity because they both serve capital. Totally different group of people. The oligarchs are aberrations. They're bubbles of unusually concentrated wealth that float up to the top, but their existence is kept in check by the system of people like this. Like, these people are the guard keepers. They are the ones that keep the systems in line. It's possible for oligarchs to become powerful and irrational enough that they disrupt the system and inconvenience guys like this. But those are rare. Even people as wealthy and disruptive and stupid as Elon or Trump ultimately serve these guys' aims, because they still support an agenda of irregularism, xenophobia, class collaborationism, deregulation, lower taxes. At the end of the day, they usually work towards the same goals, even if a guy like this might roll his eyes at the stupidity of people like Trump or Netanyahu or Elon. Are these guys like Epstein or related? They're actually deeper in than the Epstein class, because Epstein mostly associated with politicians and prominent figures in culture. These guys are too boring to hang out with Epstein, but are ultimately far more powerful. It would be more accurate to say they created the system that allows people like Epstein to exist. They are the fundamental. They are the universal particle, you know? They are the you can't like go further down than this, you know? They're more powerful than the oligarchs. As a class, 100%, yeah. The middle managers have done. That's a good way of thinking about it, yeah. Think of it like that. At a big company, the CEO and the shareholders might make waves, but the actual day-to-day operation of the business is done primarily by middle managers and the people they direct. They are like, you can get rid of the CEO or the shareholders and everything running in the company might be affected. It might rock somewhat, but it's not fundamentally changed. If you got rid of all the middle managers, everything would instantly collapse. They are the people who actually carry out the day-to-day orders and set the structure. Why isn't the MIC able to convince the Trump admin to continue Ukraine aid flow then? Dog. The MIC got Trump to petition for a $1.5 trillion Pentagon budget next year. Trump is pushing for the greatest allocation of wealth to the military and their subsidiant contractors ever. I think they're getting what they want. Yeah, the Ukraine is just a means to an end. They just want the money, man. So based on how things are going, the reason why I say there's nothing we can do to dislodge global capital, and we have to wait for the internal contradictions to mount, is because I don't think there's anything that we can do about this guy. And I mean that. I don't think there is. I think that, like, there are too many of him. They're way too powerful. And to be clear, these men are very intelligent. Okay? These are not the swaggering, incoherent, dipshit, populist politicians that you're used to dealing. These aren't like Republican senators. These people are actually smart and driven, and they are far more connected and knowledgeable than you or I. And there's a lot of them. And I don't think there's any mechanism that you could implement to really get rid of them. Their power isn't official. It's not concentrated in like a single position. There's not one institution. What bill could you possibly pass to dislodge them? And also, it's not just them. They're in every country. And once you get rid of them, you get rid of the underpinning architecture for the global economy. What happens then? You're going to be dealing with mass famine. I don't think there's anything we can do about these guys directly. They're arguably, as a class of middle managers, more powerful than any group of people has ever been. I don't think there's like a medieval equivalent to this. Can you think of one? Even the highly connected aristocrats usually didn't control the fucking Vatican II and the mercantile class. Usually there was some degree of internal separation, but here you have a middle manager for all three. A middle manager that controls the banking, that controls the monarchy, the aristocracy, that controls the clergy. You have like a middle manager class that controls everything because everything's been hollowed out by capital. There are no cultural or social institutions that exist outside capital. The universities, capital. The government, capital. Business, take a guess. Lowercase. Yeah, you get me. Israel loyalist makes more sense. He's not an Israel loyalist. I guarantee you. He is not an ideological Zionist. I guarantee I can read into this guy's mind. He thinks that Netanyahu is a lunatic and that the average Israeli is a self-destructive fool. I guarantee you. He thinks that Israel is jeopardizing a system that's worked out pretty well for them and for us. He's loyal only to the systems that Israel is, well, at the moment, currently disrupting, but is still altogether a part of. So why vote then? Great question. Because at the end of the day, people like Mamdani aren't beholden to him. Because at the end of the day, they're anti-human. So what does this guy want? He's just a power-hungry middle manager, man. The same thing every power-hungry middle manager in all human history has wanted. He's not working to build some like crazy behind-the-scenes mega project. He's just scrambling inside his own little rat race machine, you know? That's the whole point. It wouldn't be a very effective system if you relied on the individual evil and ambition of every single person involved to get ahead. They're incentivized to try to get ahead. It's just money and power. It's the same as it's always been. Could Mamdani fire a guy like this? No, that's the problem. His power exists outside of any one official office. This guy's on the board of like 17 different fucking advisory groups. It's insane. Board of directors. Look at all this, man. Like, there's no way you could really oust him, I don't think. You could try to push back against the influence of people like him at a local level, but even then, I don't know how effectively you could really do that. Ousting parasites like this from society requires an enormous cultural project. Look at how big that NSI board is. Yeah, keep in mind, he is the founder and executive director of the NSI. Here's the NSI advisory board. It's just a who's who of the deep state, man. If you look up every single one of these people on Wikipedia, you can find them. You can find them. What they are and what they do. It's not a secret. They do it in plain view. Former director of the NSA, commander of U.S. Cyber Command, managing director for Beacon Global, co-founder and chairman, Silverado Policy Advisor, former president, INSA, head of intellectual public property, Intel Corporation, former assistant to the president and deputy national security advisor, National Security Council, Princer Steptoe and Johnson, LLP, managing director of Beacon Global, first U.S. ambassador to the African Union, president of General Catalyst, mayor, board of directors, IronNet Security. It's a who's who. It's all these people, and every one of them has their own board with another 1,000 people. Executive Vice President and General Counsel for, wow, Raytheon Technologies. Albertson companies. Oh, Albertson, the mega fucking grocery chain. Former deputy director of the FBI. Former congressman. Senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, independent director for M&T Bank, former U.S. attorney for D.C. Department of Justice, former assistant secretary of state for intelligence and research from the U.S. State Department, Parsons Corporation, how nice, former director of national intelligence. What the fuck does Albertsons have to do with national security? All capital is all capital. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. Albertsons uses security cameras and pricing algorithms to scrape data on people, which they then sell to the open market, which is sold for ad data. They want to use it for the government as well. Everything is connected. All capital is all capital. There are no exceptions. It's the unicancer. Former chief of staff for the NSA, former U.S. Attorney General, former Homeland Security Advisor, former chief of staff to the Secretary of State, former Secretary of Defense, and former director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Oh, just, you know, randos. Former general counsel, office of the Director of National Intelligence, president and CEO of the Global Cyber Alliance, chairman, U.S. House Intelligence Committee, Paladin Capital Group, former deputy national security advisor for strategy, Lockheed Martin, vice president for global support, Lockheed Martin. There we go. Got to get them all in here. Former general counsel, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, American Enterprise Institute. Oh, look at that. Chief Information Security Officer at the City of New York. That one doesn't even say former. This is why Albertsons is there? Yep. Retailers secretly using face recognition to spot persons of interest, including for the government. It's all happening in plain sight, folks. It's not a conspiracy. It's not remotely conspiratorial. It's very open, out and about. All of them work together. Chief Security Officer for, wow, MasterCard. Here we go again with the Vaush Doomer content. If you want to keep your eyes closed, that's your prerogative. But don't make fun of me for wanting people to understand where the rot comes from. Because it's not from Trump, it's not from the Republicans, it's not from the Democrats, it's from their masters. And if you don't understand that, then you're not qualified to understand the potential solutions as well. Vice President of Primera Blue Cross. Yay. CISO. NSI Director for, they're the NSI faculty. Wee. And then finally the associates. Potential solutions, didn't you just say no one can do anything? There is nothing that you can do through regular government operation that could deal with this. It is not possible. It is just not possible. What we're dealing with, okay, let me put it this way. You know how both the Soviets and Allied command realized that in order to keep Germany propped up after defeating the Nazis, you had to keep some of the Nazi bureaucrats around, because if you got rid of every single person who worked in government, the state would just collapse. Like, you can't unilaterally replace the entire German state. You had to take advantage of some mid-level bureaucrats. The mid-level bureaucracy of the Nazi Party was infinitesimally small compared to the modern day bureaucracy. The modern day bureaucracy, since the advent of global capital, has swelled to an unimaginable extent. It's incomparable. Even if you could somehow snap your finger and disempower everyone on this list and everyone like them, the government would collapse. The world government. Everything would be, you would be getting rid of every middle manager everywhere. You would have mass famines. It would be the end of, it'd be nuclear war within a week. People would, everything would go dark. The internet would go dark. It would be done. I think that we've developed a system that is, it's like cancer and chemotherapy. It's too deeply integrated to get rid of without killing the host. What I'm hoping is a kind of rebirth, that when the cancer kills the patient, you build something anew from it. You set the, I'm trying to get the patient to swallow seeds so that when the cancer takes them, a beautiful tree gets to grow from their stomach. You know, I don't think there's anything that you can do to cure the cancer at this point. I think it's just a matter of like trying to build and prepare for what comes next. Take a look at the donor list. Man, do I have to? Adobe, Amazon, Beacon, CCIA, TechNet, NVIDIA, You just made Qualcomm, Meta. Yep, those are the big ones. That looks about right. Least evil Adobe business practice. A blanket ban on lobbying. A blanket ban on lobbying, even if you could do it, wouldn't even change this. It goes so far beyond. I'm sorry. I need a fainting couch. See what I mean? Nothing ever happens. Nothing will ever happen. You're stupid. You don't understand. You don't understand anything. I'm telling you, things are happening. I don't understand the incentives here, but aren't these people mostly upper middle class normies who don't really stand to benefit from the corporate takeover of America? They are the corporate takeover. They're the middle managers. They're middle managers managing corporate acquisition. It's just business. It's just business to them. It's not even ideology. It's an incentive structure. It was the only thing that could have ever happened under capitalism. It'll happen everywhere eventually, not just America, everywhere on Earth. It is the inevitable consequence of deferring this much power and autonomy to the bourgeoisie. They would always, if you make the world a corporation, the world will have middle managers. And if you give the middle managers the power, they will expand the bureaucracy. It's the only thing they ever could do. China next? Yes.